first grade is where decoding becomes critical. A lot of parents think kindergarten is the main reading year specifically because kids are required to learn the absolute foundations and basics in kindergarten according to United States standards. But honestly, first grade is where decoding really becomes critical. This is the year many children transition from learning basic letter sounds to actually applying those skills independently in real reading situations. And first grade students are also expected to begin blending sounds more fluently, reading longer words, building fluency, and reading increasingly unfamiliar text independently. This is also where weak phonics foundations start becoming much more obvious. For example, some children memorize enough sight words or repetitive books to appear successful early on, but when they start encountering larger amounts of unfamiliar text, decoding weaknesses very quickly show up. And decoding is one of the most important foundations of fluent reading. In first grade as well, they should learn all 6 syllable patterns and syllable types. In kindergarten, for example, they learn your basic CVC words, essentially consonant sounds, short vowels. Kindergarten, they learn how to put those together and stretch the one sound into another. However, in first grade, now we are going to learn consonant digraphs, vowel digraphs, silent letters, consonant LE, starting to add word parts, for example, ED for past tense, ING for present tense. Towards the end of first grade, we start getting dialogue in a lot of our books, and then comprehension should obviously follow very, very quickly, and they should be able to answer simple questions based on what they did read. First grade, kids should also start learning to read in their head and not needing to hear their voice aloud anymore for things to make sense. Children need to understand how sounds work, how spelling patterns work, and then how to break down and break apart unfamiliar words confidently and quickly. If we rely on flashcards, if we rely on memorizing sight words for all of those first grade words, they're going to struggle. Most words, even with a digraph, a silent letter, a seemingly unfamiliar blend, most of the time, those are going to repeat from one word to another to another. There are some examples like the OUGH spelling, for example, and the schwa sound that we don't touch on until second grade, and that's where we get into the gray area phonics. But at that point, all of their beginner and even advanced phonics concepts should be covered and should be easy. Strong readers are able to apply decoding skills to words they've never seen before, and this is also why I encourage parents not to rely only on whether a child likes books or memorizes stories when evaluating reading progress. What we want to know is, can the child independently decode unfamiliar words, i.e. nonsense words? I literally test them on if they can blend sounds together that do not make a real word. For example, hap or tet, because I know they didn't memorize it. I know that they can actually sound it out, blend it, and get the actual word, even if it's unfamiliar. Those are much stronger indicators of actual literacy development. Follow for literacy and child development support. If you want to know where your child is truly reading independently, book a reading assessment through the link in my profile.